Amateur Traveler is in its 20th year now, but can you imagine if I had people on the show who had never been to the destination, but had just read about it or seen a movie about it? That wouldn't make any sense at all, and you wouldn't listen. We all know how important it is to receive advice from people who know a destination to get the most authentic local experience. And a great option for experiencing this is Explore Worldwide and their authentic small group adventures, led by local tour leaders, perfect for solo travelers who want to meet like minded people with a desire for adventure. I'm often an independent traveler, but two of my last three trips were with small group tours because they organize everything and it's a lot easier. If you want to recreate the tour I did to Malta, they have a Malta and Gozo Discovery Tour. I'm intrigued by one of their tours called A Taste of Sicily. The company again is Explore Worldwide, and visit exploreworldwide.com to learn more. And thanks to Explore Worldwide for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
I got my bags packed, I'm on a roll. I'm heading out there and I'm ready to go. I'm looking real good in my passport photo. Oh, no.
Amateur Traveler, episode 264. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about skiing and mountains and crud as we go to Aspen, Colorado.
Got to sit in one more cafe. I know that I should be heading home, but maybe not today.
Welcome to the Amateur Traveler. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. Before we get into this week's interview, I do have three news stories for you. The first news story comes from the News of the Weird. A monk from Cyprus was caught at a Greek airport with the skeletal remains of a nun in his baggage. He told authorities that it was the relics of a saint that he was taking back to his monastery, but instead it was the skeletal remains of a nun who had died 4 years ago. I'm not sure that I'm ever going to figure this story out. And then good news, bad news. Good news, and very good news indeed, is 2010 there were no U.S. airline fatalities. In fact, there were no airline fatalities in any developed nation. The last U.S. air crash was in February of 2009, and not counting that flight, which crashed near Buffalo, the last 4 years have had no other crashes. So that's very good news indeed. And the bad news, I'd like you to guess how many people you think were taken hostage in 2010 by pirates. Did you guess 1,181 hostages? In all, 53 vessels were seized last year, all but 4 of them off the coast of Somalia. 1,181 people seized by pirates in 2010. Hard to believe. For the links to all of those stories, check out the show notes at amateurtraveler.com. I'd like to welcome to the show Kara Williams, who is coming to us from Colorado, also from thevacationgals.com, and come to talk to us about Aspen. Kara, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Kara is not a return guest on the Amateur Traveler, but has been on This Week in Travel, so it feels a little bit like a reunion here.
I love our semi-reunion, Chris.
And Kara, why should we go to Aspen? Now, we have you on here in the wintertime, and so I think for a lot of people, Aspen is a winter destination. So why don't we hit it as a winter destination first, but then let's talk about Aspen as a year-round destination.
I think that sounds great. I think visitors should travel to Aspen because it's one of Colorado's ski resorts that truly does combine a destination that has an incredible history. The town dates back to the late 1800s when it was a booming silver mining town with awesome skiing opportunities. There are other resorts in Colorado, ski resorts, and they're great, but frankly, they popped up in the 60s and 70s when skiing became big, and they're on the sides of highways. Aspen is a little more remote. In the winter, it is all about the ski slopes, and there are 4 ski areas that make up the Aspen Snowmass Mountains. And there's so much to do outside of skiing in the wintertime as well. But truly, I think slightly more remote destination, its history, and really the storybook downtown and the storybook characteristics that it has really appeals to travelers.
Tell me more about that. What should we see when we're in Aspen? What should we do?
Oh my goodness. So much to do, so much to see. Obviously, people come here for the skiing. The skiing is out of control. The powder is fabulous. We have 300 days of sunshine a year. And I know I probably sound like a vacation guide right now, but truly, the arid climate, it's nice and dry, gives us a fabulous climate for being in the outdoors. So, in addition to skiing in the wintertime, even if you're not a skier, you could go dog sledding, ice skating, snowmobiling, winter fly fishing. If you're not in the mood to be outside one day, there's so many cultural opportunities in Aspen. It's home to the Wheeler Opera House, which is pretty cool, and there's always performances and concerts being staged. There's ballet, art museum, galleries, shopping, spas, all that good stuff.
Winter fly fishing. That was the only one that did not seem like a combination that would work that well.
We have, again, I sound like a glossy brochure, but I love my neighborhood. And I didn't mention, I live 30 minutes from Aspen. So this is sort of my backyard and my local ski resort. And so that's why I love it so much, because I do know it so well, like the back of my hand. But no, I have not been winter fly fishing before. But we do it year round. I mean, we drive up and down the highway, and I live in the Roaring Fork Valley. So it's a valley formed by the Roaring Fork River. So along the Roaring Fork River and other adjacent rivers, they are fishing all year round, winter and summer. It's crazy. I mean, not for me, but it's a popular thing to do.
So the rivers are moving fast enough that they don't freeze over.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting. Because you're at elevation there. I should say that the first day I was in Aspen, I actually had a little elevation sickness. I know very clearly that it's an elevation.
We are at elevation. My house, again, about 30 minutes from Aspen, is at 7,000 feet. I think Aspen is closer to 8,000 feet, and Snowmass, the resort next to Aspen, is also right up there. And that was one of my tips for your listeners, is that if you are coming to Aspen from sea level, to take it easy that first day. So many people arrive here from Florida on their winter vacation, and they're so excited to hit the slopes, but I would take a day off and rest and drink lots of water and just enjoy the scenery before hitting it hard. Otherwise, you could be laid up, and that's not how you want to spend your vacation, dehydrated or feeling lightheaded.
So you're saying going on a hike the first day like I did is not the brightest move?
Probably not brilliant, but I tell you, that's exactly what I did when I moved here to the area, and that was back in 1994. I moved here from New York City, drove cross country with a friend. She lived in Aspen. She needed a roommate for the summer, just for the summer. And she took me on a hike that first day, and I will never forget it. Yeah, headachy, tired, but it goes away in a couple days. But I would definitely suggest taking it easy. And that's my other tip, is that if you can book a long stay here, come for a week so you can truly enjoy it at a nice, mellow, laid-back pace, which is what the pace is here in Aspen.
Now, does Aspen have an off season? Is it cheaper in the shoulder season than it is summer or winter?
Absolutely. The winter high season rates, especially during the holidays that just passed, are out of control. I mean, that's when everybody wants to come to Aspen, and it's packed and it's filled with the fur coats and the cowboy boots and the Texans it's such fun people watching, but it's packed and it's expensive. We can talk more about the scene. Summer is definitely quieter, but also such a popular time to come, but cheaper, a lot cheaper. And then cheapest times are definitely spring and fall, when you can get the best deals. And that's really when all the restaurants roll out locals specials. And that's when I'll head up to Aspen and do some prefix menus at the local restaurants. $30 for a 3-course meal, where normally during high season it would cost upwards of $80 or something like that. But yeah, some great deals can be found in the spring and fall. And I would highly recommend coming in the fall, say third weekend of September, when the beautiful aspen trees start to turn this gorgeous golden color, and it's an awesome leaf peeping time.
And you mentioned the restaurants a little bit. Talk a little bit about food in Aspen. We've got a little bit of a restaurant culture there.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh, I have so many favorites. And it kind of depends on what I'm in the mood for. I had a great Italian meal recently at a restaurant called Il Mulino. Some classic Aspen restaurants are Ajax Tavern, right at the base of the mountain, that serves some sort of gourmet party food, a lot of game on the menu. But then there's also some sort of quirky spots like the Popcorn Wagon, which is this cart that is in the middle of town. And I remember it, again, back in 1994 when I was in my mid-20s and my carefree single days. That's where we would go after a night at the bars at 2 a.m. and you get the munchies and you've got to have your crepe or your hero sandwich. And it's still open today. And I love it. That's kind of one of those places where all the locals go late at night.
Okay.
Just crazy fun times. See, now I'm remembering these carefree single days.
And speaking of single days, what's the best day of the year to go to Aspen, in your opinion?
The very best day ever?
The very best day that you've had, or the very best day of the year to go?
Oh, my goodness. I would say, my most memorable day in Aspen is the day that I drove into town and saw it for the first time. And what's cool is that, again, your listeners who are thinking about visiting Aspen for the first time will experience this. I drove over via Denver, via Independence Pass.
Sure.
Which is across the Continental Divide. And then you drop down, you reach the Continental Divide, then you drop down on these crazy winding roads and gorgeous snow-capped peaks and just incredible blue skies and vistas, and the scenery is out of control. And then you drive through these aspen groves and pull into, this picturesque storybook town with Victorian era houses and cute red brick buildings. And I just thought I was in Nirvana. And it is. I called it La La Land for the first, I still call it La La Land. And it's just sort of this really unique utopian place where it's just gorgeous and beautiful and everyone is pretty happy there. What's there to be unhappy about when you're surrounded by these beautiful mountains and great restaurants and excellent outdoor opportunities?
The one time I was there, I didn't drive in from Denver, but I flew in and I rented a car, which happened to be a convertible. I was there in the summertime, and I drove up to the pass, and there was still snow up there, even though it was summertime. But on the way back, it was just such this gorgeous, gorgeous day that I just put the top down, enjoyed the curves, had my sunscreen on because we were at elevation there, and just really enjoyed. And it was the day after I'd had more altitude sickness, so I was a little more adjusted to it by that point. But just very, very gorgeous area.
I agree that even if you don't come in over Independence Pass, that taking a day trip or just a morning or afternoon drive up there is pretty cool. There are a couple spots when you're driving out of Aspen up toward the Continental Divide onto Independence Pass. You can pull over and go to the grottos. Did you stop by there at all, Chris?
I don't think I stopped by there. I stopped by a couple different ghost towns of the silver mining towns, one on the highway to the Continental Divide and one further to the south from Aspen.
Yep. Again, and great day trips. There's Independence Ghost Town and then Ashcroft Ghost Town.
That's the one.
It's pretty cool because they're old. That's where it was booming, and they had their saloons and I think brothels and all sorts of gunslinging going on back in the day in the silver mining days. But the grottos is on the way up to Independence Pass, and it's just these really cool caves and neat place where the river kind of cascades, and you can jump in and play in the water. And in the summer, there's still ice in the caves, which my kids have always thought was pretty cool, that we can go there in July and descend down into the caverns and play around on the ice, which is pretty neat.
Is there anything that the guidebooks recommend that you actually don't recommend?
It's funny because I wasn't sure what the guidebooks had to say, so I kind of did a little digging online to see what people were writing about, what travel writers or the quote experts are writing about Aspen. And I think it's kind of funny that a lot of them talk about the Aspen crud, which is actually a drink. Have you heard of it?
I have not, no.
It sounds like a sickness. But so many of them...
I think I had the Aspen crud, but I have not...
Well, it's a drink. Apparently the story goes that the Hotel Jerome, which is a historic hotel, during Prohibition, they had to close down their bar and open up a soda fountain. Well, these folks didn't want to drink milkshakes and sodas, so some enterprising barkeep turned soda guy started sticking bourbon into some vanilla ice cream, and it became known as the Aspen crud, and that's how the guys used to get their alcohol, I guess, by ordering the crud. But in any case, the guidebooks talk about it, but I swear if you went to the Hotel Jerome J Bar and asked for some Aspen crud, I think you would just be looked at a little goofily. Like, locals do not drink this. It's cute, it's fun, and it's a good story, but I would not go up to the bar and ask for this. But if you do want to be in the know and drink something that the locals do, I would go to Ink Coffee and order a blended black and white. And that's dark and white chocolate mixed together with ice and milk and 2 shots of espresso. It's a very popular coffee drink around here, and Ink Coffee is a very popular little coffee shop. So that's kind of cool. One other thing that I wanted to point out is that all the guidebooks talk about how glitzy and glamorous and celebrity-filled Aspen is, a real magnet for celebrities. And I'd say in part that's true, but a lot of the celebrities like Jack Nicholson and Heidi Klum, who visit often, or Kevin Costner and Goldie Hawn, they have houses here. You know, they're such a small part of Aspen. They make up such a small percentage of the types of people who, you know, really live and work here and who visit. Any visitor coming to Aspen shouldn't really be on the lookout for celebrities. I mean, that's not a reason to come, but it seems like a lot of the guidebooks really play up that part of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What is going to surprise people when they come to Aspen?
I think, playing off what I just mentioned, is that I think people will realize that it's not as pretentious or intimidating as some guidebooks might make it sound, or glossy magazines might make it sound. There aren't celebrities on every corner. There's so many down-to-earth shop owners and bartenders and waitresses who make their homes here because they love it. I mean, they might sacrifice home ownership. It's an expensive place to live. It's an expensive place to vacation, but they're here because of its scenic beauty and the outdoor lifestyle and all the other great outdoor amenities that Aspen offers. But everyone's pretty down to earth.
Okay. One thing, though, that has made you laugh when you saw it and just say only in Aspen.
Oh my gosh, just the fur. I mean, the fur, and it sounds terrible, but I think as local, the fur comes in, and it's mostly the Texans. The Texans come in with their big cowboy boots and big cowboy hats and the fur coats, and that's not what the locals are wearing. But apparently when they come to Aspen, they think they need to bring their furs. So, and it is an expensive place to be. I mean, I've gone into local boutiques and seen jeans for $500, which is not my scene at all. So, you know, on the one hand, I talk about how down to earth it is here. Well, the town does cater to those people who can afford those $500 jeans, you know, crazy things like that.
You say it's expensive. Do you have a good money-saving tip?
I think coming here during the off season is a huge way to do it. But if you do want to come when there are crowds, when there's a little bit more energy in town, I would highly recommend renting a condo.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Even if you're a couple, you could rent a 1-bedroom condo, have that kitchen to be able to have food on hand and not have to eat out 3 meals a day, I think is key. And I think the bar menus in town are huge. I don't know if that's a phenomenon in many other Colorado ski resorts or other cities, but here the bar menus rock, and they're vast, and they're so much cheaper than sitting down and having a full entree. And it's a way to be social and meet other locals and visitors by sitting at the bar and having a meal.
Okay. And wrapping this up full circle, going back to the Aspen as a winter destination, you mentioned 4 ski resorts, and your favorite is what?
Oh my gosh. Lately I've been spending a lot of time at Buttermilk, which has traditionally kind of been known as, quote, the easy mountain. You know, and that's fine. My kids, that's where they've learned, and that's what they love. And so we go there a lot as a family. My kids are young, and actually my 10-year-old is skiing faster than I am, and my 8-year-old can jump over the bumps and the boxes in the terrain park, and I just sit there and film him. I will not go over those boxes. But anyway, I love Buttermilk, but I do want to make one point that so many people come to Aspen and don't go past the Rotary, which is the traffic circle kind of leading in and out of town. And you've got to get yourself to Snowmass. It's the other kind of bigger resort or ski area, about 10 minutes from Aspen, but it does have a bunch of condos. Again, that might be a cheaper place to stay than right in Aspen, but there are a lot of condos. The new Viceroy Snowmass is there, which is a lovely luxury hotel, great dining. And there's just so much to do, you know, also in Snowmass in the summertime, lots of festivals, riding the chairlift up and mountain biking down. I would just encourage visitors to not only explore the darling little downtown Aspen area, but get themselves to Snowmass and also even further down valley, close to where I live as well.
I actually did end up staying in Snowmass when I was there in the summertime. So I stayed at the ski resort, but only because it was cheaper than staying in town, and by a considerable amount, as I recall.
Absolutely. And there are shuttles that go from all the different mountains, so you really don't need a car to get around. If you're staying in Snowmass and want to get to Aspen, you do not need a rental car if you come here, for sure.
Excellent. And one thing I should say, because I had probably an experience that you may not have had, is I went to Aspen actually for work, but I was there to attend the Aspen Institute, which is an interesting, very interesting, not inexpensive activity where basically if you want a 3 days worth of talking in great depth with wonderfully smart people about things that are of interest, that is something that I would highly recommend. I was in a 3-day seminar talking about media and censorship, and it was moderated by Michael Powell, the former head of the FCC. So it was just fascinating for me to spend the day with smart people arguing things, just great fun, but not inexpensive, as I say, but a wonderful thing if you get a chance. And they do it both in the winter as well as in the summer.
I think that's cool. And there are so many events that draw some really phenomenal people, not only sort of that intellectual discussion that you mentioned, but Jazz Aspen Snowmass draws these fabulous musicians every year. The Aspen Music Festival is a classical event that I wouldn't know any of the artists, but famous violinists and pianists. And Aspen Summer Words is a literary festival, so there's authors here. And there's a lot of cultural stuff going on, which I think adds, again, another element to this awesome combination of visiting a destination with phenomenal scenery, great outdoor opportunities, and then this cultural side.
Anything else we should know before we get to Aspen? I've got 2 more questions for you, but I want to give you a chance to say the ones that I missed the question for.
We've covered so many good things. I think I would encourage everyone to check out what's happening when they're here. Again, so many different events at different times of year. Hop on to, I think it's aspenchamber.org. There's a great events calendar, so they'll know what's going on. If you do come during high season, kind of the height of the winter, maybe President's Day weekend or during spring break, I would check out the different dining options. Again, all the restaurants are listed online, and get some reservations if there are places that you really, really want to go or a special event that you want to celebrate. I would get those reservations in pretty early.
Okay. Final 3 questions. Where do you go in the Aspen area and just look out and say, thank God I now live in Aspen or in this area?
That gave me chills. It's the top of Aspen Mountain, and it's at 11,000 feet. And you are above the clouds. You are above the world. You are on top of the world, looking out at mountain ranges as far as you can see, surrounded by mountain ranges, snow-capped peaks, glorious, glorious, glorious mountain vistas. And you can do that a number of ways. In the summer, you can hike up or take the gondola up. You can pay to do that. In the winter, obviously, you can, if you're skiing, you'll take the gondola up to the top and see it. I was fortunate that I've been able to be up there recently as a chaperone for my kids' outdoor education field trips. So they take local kids, and this is not unusual. Really, this sort of outdoor lifestyle is really instilled in kids from early ages. But one of their field trips in 2nd grade is to snowshoe at the top of Aspen Mountain, which I love. And I happened to be able to do that in the last couple of years with my kids, and we lucked out on the weather and this glorious robin's egg blue day. But I think the top of Aspen Mountain is just sort of a spiritual place for so many people.
Excellent. Second to last question. Finish this sentence for me. You really know you're at Aspen when what?
Oh, you know you're in Aspen when you've met someone who said, I came for the winters but stayed for the summers. And I swear, so many people have this story that you come for the winter, you come one season maybe to work as a ski lift operator, or maybe you even just come frequently vacationing in the wintertime. But once you've experienced an Aspen summer and you realize that these are the glory days, this is when it really all comes together and it all fits together. When you do have this glorious temperate weather and the wildflowers are blooming, and you've got the Aspen Music Festival students sort of giving impromptu concerts on the pedestrian mall, and you're like, oh my God, this is why I moved to Aspen. This is it in the summertime. But I swear any visitor to Aspen will probably hear that from a local more than once, because they came for the winter, but they stayed for the summer. It's not atypical at all.
Excellent. And last question, if you had to summarize Aspen area in 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
Chris, where do you get these questions? You didn't prep me with these. Oh, this might sound so cliche, but inspiring.
Okay.
I would say paradise
Okay.
and storybook. And when I say storybook, I kind of mean that La La Land that I felt when I first set foot here, that it was sort of this really special place that I think visitors and locals appreciate, that it's just an unusual, carefree, laid-back lifestyle in a storybook setting, truly, and this is kind of a crummy word, but a town, it is truly nestled in the mountains. You are surrounded by mountains here, which I think are so inspiring. It's my little slice of paradise, Chris.
Well, thanks so much, Kara, for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about thevacationgals.com?
Sure. This is my travel blog that I started with two other travel writers, and I'm on the site. I'm known as Colorado Gal, and my colleagues live in the Twin Cities and Southern California. So we've got SoCal Gal and Twin Cities Gal as well, and we all have small children, so we cover family travel, but we also like to travel with our spouses, so we cover a lot of romantic getaways, and of course we love traveling with each other and our other female friends, so we do a lot of girlfriend getaway coverage as well.
Excellent. Kara, thanks so much for coming on the show and telling us a little bit about Aspen.
Thanks, Chris.
In news of the community, I received a wonderful letter from Cheryl in Seattle, Washington, who said, I listened to your podcast while I'm doing my glass work and avoiding the noise of the grinders. I love all the information, and I'm replanning 2 upcoming trips I will be taking in 2012 and 2013, each for a 6-month period. I have discovered through your podcast areas that I had never considered. I have taken 5 trips in the past for 5 to 6 weeks, the last 3 solo, so I'm ready to extend my travels. I will be 59 when I leave the next time, female, and ready to enjoy my life in a big way. Thank you for your hard work, truly wonderful. And it's so encouraging to me to hear that people are using the Amateur Traveler and that it's making a difference in their planning. I certainly hope that you discover someplace you truly love, Cheryl. Cheryl also said, I tried to post a review with iTunes, but I couldn't find a way to do it. To leave a review, I think, first of all, you have to have an iTunes account. They are free, but you do have to have one. And then you go to the iTunes application, go to the iTunes store, search for Amateur Traveler, and then click on the Amateur Traveler podcast, preferably the iTunes enhanced version. And then if you scroll down, you'll see customer ratings. And right above the customer reviews, you'll see a place where it says write a review. The top review right now is from Heath Patry, who wrote in 2007, who said, I first heard about the Amateur Traveler a few months ago when the host was interviewed on the MacCast. Since then, this has become one of my favorites. Having traveled to some of the places featured, I can say the information and tips are quite good. Chris presents in a very comfortable way. His interview style is good. His guests are interesting, and I've created a bookmarks folder for all of the great URLs provided in the enhanced version. It's excellent. Thanks, Chris. And thank you, Heath, and thank you to all of you who have left a review. And with that, I think we'll end this episode of The Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com or drop me an email at host@amateurtraveler.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Chris2X. And as always, thanks so much for listening.
I got to see one more cathedral. I got to sit in one more cafe. I know that I should